Hello, welcome to today's video. Today is the first video for my fall color series. I'm really excited about this series. I was thinking to myself in early September when we got back from our trip that I just love fall colors so much. Even though I love summer, summer's like my favorite season, I just am really inspired by all the fall colors and I love to create fall makeup looks. So I thought that I would do a series of videos where I feature different autumn colors. Now, we're gonna start out with orange because I feel like that's just the quintessential fall color. So a little bit about what you can expect to see in these videos. If I have lip options that I can feature in these videos, I will show you lip options. You will see different palettes in my collection that I have that I think I can get these looks from. Like I have several different eyeshadow palettes today that I can get orange looks from. And then I also have 4 looks that I will show you at the end of these videos where I've created 4 different orange or 4 different whatever color looks with 4 different palettes. So yeah, I am really excited for this. I hope you enjoy this series and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start us out, I have 2 orange lipsticks and I will have swatches of these both. These are bullet lipsticks. One is from L'Oreal in the shade Madly in Love. I've swatched this one in different videos, but I have to mention it here because it fits so well. This is a very orange bullet lipstick, but it also can pull a little bit red depending on your skin tone. So this is one of my favorite oranges to wear in fall. Usually this is like one of the first ones I will pull for because this one has a special place in my heart. I really enjoyed this one. And then I have another one that's newer to me. I'm not quite as familiar, or I'm familiar with it, but I'm not quite as in love with it. This is Neon Orange from MAC. So these are those two together. That's the L'Oreal one. This is MAC. And on your lips, this looks, I mean, I can pull it off. I have to use a orange lip liner underneath, but on my lips, if I don't use an orange lip liner, it can pull a little bit, like you can kind of see the white base that it has to make it neon. I wish it would have been a little bit more neon almost, but I do think it's a pretty shade. It's just, maybe I prefer the matte finish of the L'Oreal over the cream finish here. But yeah, they're very similar. I just slightly prefer the L'Oreal one, and not to mention that there's quite a price difference in these two. Okay, before moving into eyeshadow, I have a couple little face things that I wanted to mention. These are 2 things that I love to wear with orange shadows in the fall. The first one is the Cruella highlight. I'm actually wearing this today. It's just got this beautiful, I'm giving you a sneak peek of my pants. So hopefully that's not too distracting, but that's what I'm looking like. But if you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it has like an orange shift to it. It's got a really sheer base, but it does shift a little bit orange. And I think this is so pretty to pair with other highlights too. Like because it has that sheer base, I can top it on top of other highlights. So I really enjoy this, especially for orange looks, so I had to mention this one here. And the other highlight I wanted to mention comes from my Aurora Glow Kit. I also featured this in other videos, so you'll hear me talk about this palette quite a bit, but I really love this shade down here called Lyra? But it's got that kind of orange sheen to it. I just love it. I really think I would be sad if I ever ran through a shade like that because I know that these shades aren't the most popular. Not a lot of people love duochromes, but I really like duochromes that lean orange, so I really am glad to have this in my collection. Okay, before we get into the actual 4 looks, I have 5 eyeshadow products that I wanted to mention that are kind of like honorable mentions. I didn't do looks with these, but I just think that if I didn't mention that you can get an orange look from these palettes, I would be doing myself a disservice. So this here, the Jackie Aina palette, it has some really nice warm colors, and then also like this salmon shade over here pulls like, it's a pretty gold that has like, I don't know, I think if you topped it on top of like that warm ginger shade that it would look very kind of orange and seasonal appropriate, but like more toned down orange, especially compared to something like I'm wearing now. So if, you know, if bright orange isn't your thing, but you want to kind of get into those fall tones, something like this, if you already have something like this in your collection, this is a great option. And the same can be said for this palette, the Norvina palette. It also has a very orange pulling shade called Eccentric. I really love that shade. I know a lot of people didn't see like why it was put in this palette, and I think that's a valid criticism, but at the same time, I do love those shades, so I kind of enjoy it still. And then Summer up here is like a nice gold that could pair really nicely with that if you're someone who really likes to pair shimmers with mattes. So this one is another one that I think you could get a really nice fall orange look from. Okay, the next three I'm gonna mention are gonna be quick. I'm not even sure if they still carry this one, but this is I Like You from Colourpop, a super shock shadow. And this is a really fun, different kind of orange shade. I'm just gonna leave it on my finger because I think it's a little bit easier to see, but hopefully you see it's got an orange base to it, but it's got more of like, almost like a slight pink glitter running through it. So I really like to pair this with like just an orange shade all over my lid, fluffed into my crease, and then I like to put this kind of over my lid. And it's a really easy, pretty shade to use. It's just really pretty and unique. So I'm not sure if they still carry it, but this is a really fun, like kind of, it's a really good shade to go from like summer to fall with. So I had to mention this one here too. Now the next one is not my favorite. This is my NYX Ultimate Brights palette. And it has a couple orange shades up here. Not my favorite formula-wise, but I know a lot of people own this palette. So I was gonna mention it here that if you have this palette in your collection and you're wondering what palettes to grab for to create orange looks for fall, this one is an option, even though it's not my favorite. I like to have shimmer, so I don't tend to grab for this a ton. Usually, if I do, it's just gonna be for one shade. So it's not the most like versatile palette in my collection, but it does have like some actual like shades that you would want or need for other looks. And then another palette that I wanted to mention for this orange shade is that if you have this one in your collection, because I'm someone who my big palettes are back home in storage, and I have a ton of like big, like I have the Morphe 3502, I have the 35 Embossed Mood from Morphe, and like those have really, really, really beautiful orange shades in them. And I don't feel like I have a ton of palettes that like are just meant to be orange, like the 3502. But I was going through my collection because I do really like to wear oranges. So when we hit fall the past couple weeks ago, I was like, man, I actually kind of miss more dedicated orange palettes. So I started swatching through everything, which is what led me to this video idea in the first place. And I realized, like, you know what, even though I don't have like a dedicated palette that reads really orange to me, I have a ton of oranges throughout my collection. So this one here, even though it reads super red and a lot of pink tone reds, I wanted to mention this shade Juicy Fruit up here because it's just this beautiful, like it does pull a little bit more red, but it's got such an, it pulls so orange too. So if you have, you know, you may have hidden oranges in your collection like me. When you want something orange and you don't think you quite have it, you may have it. Okay, now for the fun part, let's get into the actual eyeshadow looks. The first look is coming from my Saharan by Juvia's Place palette. This is a very fall appropriate palette to me. And for this look, it was pretty simple. I kind of wanted to include a couple looks that were really easy to do, really quick, and then some that maybe take a little bit more time and require maybe, or maybe you would feel a little bit more comfortable like this with a lash. So this one, the first one is one of those really calm kind of, you know, everyday almost, you could pull this off every day if you wanted to. So I started off with Katsina in my crease, then I went with Jamila kind of all over my eye and then fluffed it into my crease a little bit. And then I took Senegal, which is this beautiful like bronzy shade, and I just really let these shimmers from Juvia's Place are typically like super high impact, and this one really is too. But what I did is I made sure to kind of take it real lightly and then pressed it just really lightly on my lid, and then use my brush to kind of fluff it out and make sure that it didn't look like it didn't pull too bronze. I wanted it to kind of just give the orange a little bit of shimmer, and it really worked really well, and I actually really loved that look. I felt really comfortable in it, even though I was like wearing a t-shirt, and it just kind of made me feel intentional and really pretty. So I really like this orange, like the orange vibes you can get from this palette, so I had to include a look with this one. Okay, and the second look comes from my Nomad by Juvia's Place as well, another Juvia's Place palette. But what I did, again, really simple, is I started off with this one high up in the crease, and it really matches my skin tone pretty well, so you can barely see that. And then I kind of took this like orange shade here, which is just like the perfect kind of sunflower orange, and I ended up putting that all over my lid, and then I fluffed it into my crease as well, just kind of like made like a smoky kind of eye. And then I took this like center beautiful metallic, and I just kind of popped it on the center of my lid like a halo eye. And I thought, again, it looks so nice and intentional and beautiful. And these tones, the tones are kind of different. That one's like a more red based orange from the Saharan palette, and this is like a more yellow based orange, and I just think it's really this one comes off like so sophisticated. I just love this color scheme, so I really like how that look came out with this palette. All right, and the third look comes from my Modern Renaissance palette, and I wanted to do an all matte look. I'm someone who I tend to always wear like shimmers on my lid, but I think that this palette, obviously it's majority matte shades, This palette the mattes are so good in it. So I really wanted to showcase that. And what I ended up doing was, again, really, really simple. This Realgro shade I put all over my lid, and then I kind of fluffed it into my crease and blended it out with burnt orange. And I just thought it was beautiful. It looks so fall and just gorgeous. And I really, really love that matte, all matte look. I think I did take a little bit of my Cruella highlight that day and popped it right in the center, or like the very corner of my eyes. But yeah, it's just a beautiful, beautiful, these mattes are just awesome. So I had to include a matte look with this one. And then I saved the fun, more extra look for last. So this one actually I used two different palettes for. I used my Weekend Festival palette today to put on. I ended up putting Hippie all over my eyelid because I knew that I didn't have I don't have an orange dedicated shimmer right now. I have things that can pull orange if you pair them right, but like I know my Morphe 3502 again has like some great like actual orange shimmers, and I don't have any of those with me. So what I wanted to do is kind of like create that orange shimmer with a different glitter. So what I did is put Hippie, like I said, all over my eyelid so that whatever I put on top would shift more orange. And then I fluffed this into my crease like just a little bit, and then I took Escape and kind of blended out my crease a little, really lightly. And then I ended up taking a mixture, like mixed on one brush, Hipster and Escape, and kind of put it on the outside of my eyelid just a little bit, just in the outer corner. And then I went back over the top of Hippie just to make sure it still pulled pretty orange. And I think it really does. And then I also ran Hippie underneath my lash line a little bit. And for my lid shade, I thought of this palette here. This is the Honey palette. And obviously it's a very yellow palette, but this shade Palooza here, this glitter, I remember when I wore it before with this yellow palette, it pulls yellow, but it also, at times when you turn your head, it pulls pretty orange. So I thought that if I put down an orange shadow, that it would pull more orange, and it kind of does. Actually, I'll zoom you in just a little bit so you can get a close-up look of it. Okay, so this is a little bit more zoomed in, but as you can see, that orange glitter, or that yellowy orange glitter on top of more orange shades really does make it pull a lot more orange. I really enjoyed this look. I think it's so fall appropriate, and yeah, orange is so much fun. So I had to include that here too. That is everything for today's video. I hope you're excited as I am for the series. If you really are, please let me know in the comments, because these videos are so much work, but I'm really excited to put them together for you. We're gonna have some greens, we're gonna have some yellows, some browns, and we got some other ones planned too. So imagine over the next couple of weeks, these will kind of sporadically pop up, but I'm so excited to share them with you. Make sure you say hello, and I will see you in the next one.